it's not ignoring that, right? And it's not ignoring that I have anxiety sometimes and that I worry and that some days I feel really sad but it's bringing in more of the like, but look at all this other stuff that exists too. There's so much beauty, there's so much love, there's so much connection, there's so much good as well. And for me, it's allowing both of those things to exist together. And that's what has been a huge part of my recovery.
We rise to the top, can't stop this flow. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready, let's go. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Roundtable here with Ben and Candice. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What's going on, man?
Not much, bro. Just here with a great guest. And I appreciate you taking the time. I always say that, but I really do know that I'm sure you got a busy schedule, and you could definitely be at home at least relaxing on your own time. But
True.
I appreciate you taking the time to sit with us and have a discussion on, from my side, trying to be open to the spiritual side of it. Because that's how I know you. That's how I ended up meeting you. And I think that's really where I want to start, for me is, have you always been spiritual? Did you...
Oh, no, not necessarily. I mean, a little bit about, I guess, my background and my history with that. So my dad converted to the LDS church when I was 3 or 4, I think. I'm not quite sure. And we lived in Virginia at the time, and 2 missionaries knocked on his door from Provo, Utah. Told him to pray. He did, and he ended up converting. So he went to a singles ward out there in Virginia where he met my stepmom, and she was from Utah. So we ended up moving out here when I was about 5 years old. So I was raised in the LDS church from about 5 to, I think maybe 15 was when I stopped going. I was kind of like, I don't know if this is for me. I've just been doing it because everyone says it's what I'm supposed to do, but I kind of started questioning. And then I went into a place of like, I don't want anything to do with God. I've been told my whole life what God is, and it never really resonated with me. So I kind of went to the other extreme of, I don't believe in anything.
Been there.
And hung out there for a while, I guess. And then just slowly started just noticing that certain things resonated with me. And at first I was a little like, this is weird, like crystals, for instance. Like I started getting interested in the idea of crystals and energy healing and things like that. And it felt a little silly at first, but I was just trusting that there was something I was connecting with about it. And then I started meditating. And honestly, for me, I think that's where my spirituality really expanded, was just starting to do a really consistent meditation practice. And I think it kind of went from there, and it's continuing to evolve. And I think my spirituality is pretty eclectic at this point. Like I just find things that I'm like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I love that.
And I also really love the idea of, I do have faith in some things, and I always think it's important to have humility. I don't know. I know what I feel, and I know what I have faith in and what I hope, and what brings me comfort and what makes me feel connected, and feelings of awe. And I also don't know a lot still. And so I think it's always really important to leave some humility, like some space for that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it sounds like you really love to grow too, because it sounds like you've been growing through all of this.
Yeah.
What led you to be a therapist?
Oh, yeah. Well, I always wanted to be a teacher. Like when I was little, I would set up all my stuffed animals and I would teach them.
There you go. That's cool.
That was like, so I always wanted to be a teacher. And so when I decided to go to college, I went down to SUU and with a plan to be a teacher. The plan was to work with special ed. I had been a peer mentor in high school and really enjoyed working with that population. So that's what I wanted to do. But while I was in Cedar City, I worked at a place called the Family Support and Crisis Center. So this is a place, it offers a lot of different services, but one of them was like respite care. So parents could come drop their kids off for 3 hours for free to take a break, right? That was one of the things we did. But it was also a place for foster kids, kids that had been removed from their homes by DCFS and were like waiting for a foster home. We also went into the homes of people to help them with parenting, or help them with organization, like how to clean their house, things like that. So I was working there because I wanted to work with kids. And while I was working there, my boss was a social worker. She was an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker. And I just really looked up to her, really admired her. And the story that I think is really part of the shift for me was one time we were getting ready to bring this little boy in. He had been removed from several foster homes, and he was going to come stay with us for a while until they figured out what they were going to do with him, because he kept getting kicked out of foster homes. And so we had a meeting about him, and we were told that he was very violent and aggressive. We were told that he had all these issues and these problems, and that we just needed to be really cautious with him and that sort of thing. And this little boy showed up, and I just fell in love with this little boy. Like, he was not, sorry if I get emotional, like he was not what they said he was. He just needed love. He needed someone to hug him when he felt angry. And I still think about him. And so I was talking to my boss about that, and she made the comment, she said, Candice, you have this natural ability to really love the people that a lot of people think are unlovable. And that just really stuck with me. And she said, I think you should be a social worker. And because I had so much respect for her, I said, okay. And I ended up getting my associates down there, and then I transferred to the U to get my bachelor's in social work, and then ended up getting my master's as well. So that's kind of what put me on the path. Wow. I think, I've struggled with depression since I was probably about 14, I think is when it started, and I started seeing therapists then. And so I think there was a part of me too that maybe was interested in being on the other side of that, right? Of like, okay, I didn't always have great experiences with therapists growing up. Maybe I can be the type of therapist that I needed. So I think there was a little bit of that, but not, it really, I don't know. I feel like a lot of my life is just, I know when something's right, and there's not a lot of like facts to back up why it's right. Sometimes I can't even explain why it's right. I just know. And I think that was one of those moments when she was like, you should be a social worker. I was like, okay. Like, I just knew that was what I needed to do. And then as I have moved forward in my career, my why has evolved a lot, and it's changed and shifted about, why I'm passionate about what I do and why I, continue to be a therapist and not quit. So yeah, I think it's constantly evolving, but that was really where I got started.
So when did you start getting more spiritual?
I would say after my divorce. Around 2011, so about 14 years ago, that was really where I started meditating and just being open to things. And I think that was where it kind of, I got more curious about it, and that guardedness and that, like that overcorrection that I had done of like, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in anything. Like, I think that's where I started to soften a little bit. And so, yeah, about 14 years ago.
I wonder if that little boy kind of helped lead you that way.
I definitely think that's like part of it. Yeah. I think everything, right, has contributed to that. And maybe not at the time, like recognizing that, but absolutely. And to me, being a therapist is very spiritual to me. it's a big part of my spirituality. So yeah, I he's probably part of it.
Why do you feel that boy had such a big impact on you? Like looking back at that time of your life, like why do you feel it was
Yeah.
so impactful?
I mean, I just think like everyone had this idea of him and who he was, and they put him in a box. And he was young. He was, if I remember, he was around 6 years old.
Wow.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
so what chance did this kid have? Like, people had already put him in a box. And granted, like, I know why. He did struggle. He was violent. Like,
Yeah.
I totally understand why people had that perception of him, but it just seemed like already at 6 years old, he was labeled and put in this box that he was never going to be anything else but that.
Wow.
And just the moment I saw him, that's not what I saw.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, man, if other people could see what I see, maybe he actually has a chance.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think, that's probably what it was, right?
Yeah.
It was just seeing something different, seeing past what's on the surface and being able to look past it and go, oh, there's something else here. And I believe that about all humans.
Yeah.
I was about
Right.
to say, I think
Yeah.
that your mindset is very much that way.
Yeah.
You can see past a lot of things.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes. There's a lot of humans that I think trigger me. There's a lot of humans out there that do really bad things. And, but I do truly believe that all of us have this goodness inside of us as well.
Have you always had that, do you think? Like growing up?
No, no. Like, I actually consider myself a pretty like pessimistic person. Like, I walk into a room and I'm going to immediately see what I think is wrong, maybe what's not working, who I think looks like a creep. I don't know. Like, that's just kind of
Yeah.
my natural thing. And I've had to work really hard and have to continue to work really hard on not letting that guide my life and guide my choices. And I think a lot of that is because of being a therapist, right? Like, I have people sitting in front of me who are showing me and telling me about the worst parts of themselves. And to have compassion for them, to love them, and to still see the potential in them and the magic in them, like that, being a therapist has definitely helped me, I think, get to that place.
So and I've only had a handful of therapists, but do you think having that spiritual side along with being a therapist makes you stand out more to most people because of that reason?
Well, it might make me stand out because I seem a little crazy. No,
Do you incorporate it into your therapy session? Like without, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Okay.
I think sometimes there's a limit to that, right? So I work at a treatment center. I'm the clinical director there, and we work with insurances and things like that. So I do have a limit sometimes on what I can do, right? Insurance isn't going to pay for me to do an hour session with someone if I'm like, oh, I did energy work with them
Right.
during it. They're going to be like,
Right.
no, we're not paying for that. So I am somewhat limited in what I can do, but I think I always try to bring some sort of spirituality into it, because I think that's part of recovery, right? Like, when I'm helping my clients establish and find and sustain their recovery, I think spirituality is part of that. And so letting my spirituality come into the room is an important part. So yes.
And either way, I think even you're giving them a different way to think.
Yeah.
More than anything. And I've had one that kind of got me thinking that way. So that's why I was curious if you use that more like, hey, think about it this way. Maybe you should try breath work or try sound baths, something like that, just to kind of click that little bit extra in their mind.
Well, and I think, for me, spirituality, I was raised to believe God was outside of me. And my spirituality is very much, no, God is inside of me. I am God. You are God. You are God. your cute little cat I met upstairs. That is God, right? Your beautiful daughter that answers the door. That is like the trees are God. The stars are like, we are all God. It's not these things outside of us. It's within us. And if we can recognize it and see it in other people as well. And so I think that's an important part of recovery is I'm trying to help my clients recognize like, hey, you have everything you need inside of you already. It's already there. You just maybe forgot that it's there, or maybe you've never been taught that it's there, or maybe you just don't even know how to access it. And so I think that's why I do think spirituality is important in a therapy room.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So how depression? Let's go there. Just because I have dealt with it too.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. Where do you think that's helped lead you through therapy a lot more? Being a therapist, being able to connect with them? I mean, I already know the answer, which should be yes. But
Yeah.
how do you think that's affected you becoming a therapist? Was it harder because do you take some of their stories a little bit harder because you have dealt with depression as much?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always something to be aware of, right? There's something called countertransference that therapists have to be really aware of when I'm sitting in front of a client. What are they bringing up in me? Do they remind me of someone I know? Are they talking about something that I went through? Are they what they're talking about? Is that a trigger of maybe my own trauma or my own past? So yeah, I think I have to constantly kind of be aware of that. And I think you can sometimes use that to help the client and use it in a very intentional way. And it can be very powerful. And sometimes you have to be careful that it's not about you and you're not making it about you. And just because I've struggled with depression and have my own journey with it doesn't necessarily mean the person sitting in front of me is on the exact same path, right? And so I think I'm constantly kind of being mindful of that with boundaries and self-disclosure and things like that. But I do think it's very powerful. I know what it's like to be in that dark place. I know what it's like to want to kill yourself. And I know what it's like to be on the other side of that and literally like see a tree and cry because it's so beautiful. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
So I really can be this example of hope for my clients because I've been there and I've made it to the other side and I'm continuing to do the work, right? It doesn't ever stop. The work doesn't stop. And so, yeah, I think it helps me to have some understanding of what they're going through. I think it helps me to be able to validate and have empathy for what they're going through. I also think it helps me challenge them, right?
Yeah.
It helps me say, hey, like, here's what you're doing to keep yourself here. Here's what you're doing to keep yourself stuck. So it helps me hold them accountable as well. One of my biggest pet peeves with therapy is when clients and therapists think all it is a therapist is just validating. I'm just listening and I'm just validating you. That's part of it. But a lot of therapy is challenging you and holding you accountable to how you create your own suffering.
Sometimes those have been some of my favorite sessions when I've done them. When I actually get more of a challenge. Sometimes I do just feel like I need to talk, but other times I like the challenge.
Absolutely. Well, and how powerful is that when you realize, oh, I'm the creator of my life. I'm not a victim to my life. Like I'm in charge. Like when that clicks,
it's powerful.
It's powerful, right? Yeah. And that doesn't mean it's not hard sometimes. And sometimes we're going to be like, why me? What's wrong? You know, but at the end of the day, to me, that's really empowering.
Can we back up a little bit? So you'd hit on, and I'm going to only jump at this because I've asked them this question. And I don't mean to be smiling when I'm asking, but I'm only saying it because I've never experienced I can't look back and say like, I've had depression or thoughts of suicide or anything like that. Can you talk me through some of that and your experience with it? Because I dug deep with him because I want to understand that because my wife is in the same kind of boats, you know, and so she's dealing with her own stuff too. But can you talk through some of that and where that, like as far back as you can remember, like where it kind of started? And you said 14, I know is about when you started having depression, but specifically on like the suicidal part, like, and how that came about and what journey you had to go through too, because that's a whole journey. I'm sure just hearing his story was incredible to understand and hear him kind of say it. So
so I think with that being said, one thing that's important is that hindsight's 20/20, right? So when I look back, I really struggled with depression, but I think I actually had a lot of anxiety, but I didn't know what that was and nobody talked to me about it. And so I think because I was constantly in this state of feeling anxious and worried and ruminating and racing thoughts, but I didn't really know what was happening, I think it kind of turned into depression because I was like, well, this sucks. I always feel this way. And so I think a lot of mine is anxiety and depression.
I got one question real quick.
Yeah.
Are you an overthinker?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sitting over here thinking, I'm like, well, that's played into a lot of my thing, and I imagine that's the same as you when you're talking about the thoughts just constantly rolling. So sorry,
I'm constantly like,
ask.
okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? Like my body's kind of tense a lot, and I have to constantly like, okay, drop your shoulders. My mind's racing. I'm kind of waiting for the worst thing to happen. I'm looking for all the things I can control. So I think that's really, I think anxiety's at the core for me. But when I'm not managing my anxiety well, it kind of, a symptom of that is depression, if that makes sense. So I think that was a lot of what was going on when I was younger. I mean, who knows where that could be from? You know, I've done a lot of therapy and we've talked about the reasons. You know, my parents divorced when I was 2, and I lived with mostly my dad. And then he moved us to Utah, and I only saw my mom, you know, every like once or twice a year, which that's hard on a child, right? Yeah. And then my dad remarried and they had kids. I always felt like I wasn't one of them. I just kind of like, oh, that's the family and I'm just kind of here. So I think there's, you know, a few things I went through as a child that probably contributed to that. But the depression, yeah, like I said, it started around 14 is kind of what I remember. And I just felt like there was no fucking can I swear?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I forgot to ask that earlier. I felt like there was no fucking purpose. Like I just looked around and it seemed like, I don't know, I felt so out of place. I never felt like I had a home. I didn't feel connected to people. I felt like what is the point of all of this? Why am I here? And people would tell me things, you know, like, oh, family and God and church and working and all of these things. And I was just like, none of that feels right to me. And so I think that was the biggest thing, is just felt like there was no point to why I was here or why I was alive. And I around 14 was when I started having suicidal thoughts as well. Wow. And I think that came directly from, what is the point? So if there's no point, then why do I even want to be here? Because it just seems to be a lot of hard stuff that I have to go through. I got to wake up. I got to go to school. I got to deal with, my mom's mad at me. My dad's mad at me. My dad's making me go to church. And all of this is so that one day I can just work a job and make money until I die. Like that's what it felt like. And I didn't understand kind of why I was supposed to be excited about that.
That makes sense. Yeah. When you put it that way. Yeah.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound exciting now.
Right. And I have to be really mindful, because it's easy for my mind to kind of sometimes slip back in that place, right? Like with everything going on right now in our country and in the world, it's really easy for my mind to be like, oh, we all just hate each other. We're all just against each other. Everyone's sad. Everyone's angry. Like I have to be really mindful to not let my mind go back there, and to make sure I'm leaving space and looking for all of the amazing, beautiful things that also exist in this life, right? And I think that's been the biggest part of my work. It's not ignoring that there's really shitty stuff that goes on, right? Like, I'm a therapist. There's really shitty stuff that happens. Like, humans do really terrible things to each other. And it's not ignoring that, right? And it's not ignoring that I have anxiety sometimes and that I worry and that some days I feel really sad but it's bringing in more of the like, but look at all this other stuff that exists too. There's so much beauty, there's so much love, there's so much connection, there's so much good as well. And for me, it's allowing both of those things to exist together. And that's what has been a huge part of my recovery. So yeah, the depression, I didn't have that skill when I was younger, right? So it was just dark. Like, it was just very, very dark. And, you know, I often remember hearing, well, just pray about it. If you pray about it enough, then you'll feel better, or you'll find your answers, or God will help you, right? And that never happened for me. So then I'm like, well, is something wrong with me? Like, all of you seem to, you say you pray and you get the answers you need and you feel better. I'm not getting that. So am I broken? Is something wrong with me? So I think that started to kind of play into things, you know, from the, what's the point of this? And now, well, now I must be broken because everyone else seems to have figured it out. So I think that was a big part. I didn't really like myself. And so it was kind of like a combination of all of those things. And then it's so hard because with depression, one of the biggest symptoms of depression is lack of motivation, right? You're just tired and you have no motivation. So then people are like, well, try this and try this. And you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't. Like, even getting out of bed some days just felt like I weighed 10,000 pounds and it literally would feel like something was just pulling me back in. And so that it's hard to get out of that dark place and that hole when you're in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
It
interesting
is hard.
because just hearing, like, even hearing Dustin's story and your story, and then my wife's mentioned that's exactly how most people explain it. It's like you can't even get out of bed sometimes. Like it's just, everything feels so heavy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to hear how we have all our different journeys and stories in the way that we deal with things, but there is some commonalities in those things that you can help, you know, with your own personal story, going through that and understanding where people are in those moments and how you got out of it. How did you, like, come out of that? Like, because that's, you're young, teenage years, like, oh my gosh, like, I can't imagine. And then also as a woman, like, you've got all kinds of different stuff happening during that period of time. What is it like? How did you come out of that? Like, how did you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm lucky. Some of it's luck because of the anxiety that comes with perfectionism. So even when I was struggling with these things, you know, I was at home self-harming. I was at home, like, you know, I remember my first suicide attempt. I got up and went to school the next day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I've always had this part of me that, like, I have perfectionism, and so I was struggling, but at the same time, I was also still achieving, and I don't think a lot of people even knew I was struggling.
Wow.
I got good grades. I worked. I was a good worker. I worked at TJ Maxx. Yeah, that's right, in high school. And my managers loved me. I was a hard worker, and I actually, looking back, a lot of that did bring me some fulfillment, right? Like having a manager be like, hey, you did a good job. Like, we're going to give you a raise. I think that some of that kept me going. So even though the anxiety was hard, at the same time, I think it helped me kind of get through some of the depression and not get completely stuck. I think part of it was luck of having anxiety and perfectionism, if you can call it that. I'm really thankful for my mom, because my mom, I think she recognized what was happening. And so she had me start seeing therapists at a pretty young age.
Was that hard for you? Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, I remember not being super open to it. The first one that she took me to, fell asleep in a session.
No way. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm like sitting there bearing my soul, and I look over and she's like conked out. I was
wow.
Like, okay.
I feel like one of mine did that.
Yeah,
honestly.
it was rough.
God.
It was rough. But it was still nice to have someone to talk to, right? Where I
Yeah.
could at least come and just be like, vent. I mean, I didn't really know what therapy was supposed to look like as a 14-year-old.
I think it's changed a lot, honestly.
Yes.
but-
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And then my second therapist was great. I really liked him. I really connected with him. I think he was very helpful in helping me navigate some things and look at some things differently. So I'm really grateful that my mom, got me some people that I could talk to. And so I think that's what helped me through those. I mean, I attempted suicide twice in my teens, and it didn't work, thankfully, which I'm really grateful for. But I didn't want to be alive, and I tried not to, twice. And I think, again, just luck. I was lucky that nothing happened. And so that's through there. I think it was just that overachieving perfectionism, honestly, that got me through. I graduated high school, went to college, and I even now that I think about it, I'm like, yeah, what was that? I don't know if I was just doing what I thought I was supposed to do. Like, oh, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. And
When going to going to college and all that stuff.
yeah, and
finishing
like
that off?
working and still kind of doing those types of things. And then, yeah, I really didn't do a lot of work on myself in my 20s. I was just a hot mess in my 20s. I was going to school, so I guess, that was good, but that's where I started drinking more. And, I think I looked for a lot of validation in men, in relationships. And so, yeah, my 20s, I don't know what I was doing, but it was not pretty. And I got married when I was 24. So I thought, this is it, right? Okay, someone loves me. I'm going to have this happy life. We're going to, have the house, and it's going to be great, and I'm going to have a family. So I think that's what helped me. I was like, oh, this is it, right? This is what's going to be it. And it was really interesting, actually, because when I found out I was pregnant with my son, I decided to go off all my meds. So I was on a bunch of depression meds, and I was like, well, I don't want him to be affected, right? So I went off of them cold turkey. And it was really interesting, actually, because I have never been happier than when I was pregnant. I don't know if it how other women, it messes up their hormones, and then they're experiencing like mood swings and things that they hadn't before. I think for me, it made my hormones better. I don't know, because I was so happy. I loved being in my body. I felt so good. I felt motivation, and it literally felt like my depression just went away.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was really good. And that lasted for probably about a year and a half after my son was born. And then it slowly started to creep back in. And I started to have those same thoughts again of like, what's the point? And that really scared me at this point, because I had a child. I thought he was going to fix everything, right? I thought, oh my gosh, I love this human so much. There's no way that I'll ever feel depressed again. There's no way I will ever think, what's the point again? And there is absolutely no way I will ever want to kill myself again. And I was wrong about that. And that was really scary and brought on a lot of shame, right? What's wrong with me? I'm a mom. And why am I having all these thoughts? So I ended up going back on antidepressants about a year and a half after he was born, and it just wasn't really helping. And so then I decided to go back to school. So at this point, I had my bachelor's degree in social work, and I was working in the field, but I couldn't do therapy. You have to have a master's degree. So I made the decision to go back to school to get my degree. And my husband at the time was not supportive. He was like, I don't understand why you're doing this. You're not going to make money. Therapists don't make money. So you're going to go spend all this money to go to school, and you're not really ever going to get anything out of it. And I was like, well, it's something I want to do. It feels important to me. So I went back to school, And this is where my life completely changed. I actually ended up having an affair with someone that I met at school. And looking back now, you know, this person was so kind to me. This person told me how amazing I was, and I think was giving me the emotional support that I felt like I wasn't getting from my husband at the time. And I just didn't know who I was. And so I made that choice, and my ex-husband found out, and we ended up getting divorced. And that's where things just plummeted, right? Because I'd had this life. I was married. I had a child. I had the house. I was in school. Like that on the surface, it was like, this is amazing. I have this amazing life. And then I kind of burned it all to the ground, and I really hated myself for a really long time. But looking back now, that was where the journey of really developing my relationship with myself came from. I would never wish that on anyone. That was the worst time of my life. And I still have a lot of shame about what I did. I've let go of a lot of it, but it's still there, of course. But I think that really set me on the path of like figuring out who I was and really developing the relationship with myself. Because up until that point, I thought all these external things were going to solve it, right? Oh, I'm going to have a child and then I'll feel happy. Oh, I'm going to get married and then I'll feel happy. Oh, I'm going to have a career and make money and then I'll feel happy. Like it was all these external things. And I think that whole situation forced me to be like, no, like you got some work to do. Like turn inward, figure it out. And so that was a huge part. So I feel like I just went off on a tangent. Sorry, you kind of asked me, but that was really like a big part of like where things shifted and my path.
I do have a question though. Do you think being in that social work field was good or bad for your depression? Because you can see some pretty messed up things in that field of work. Do you think that made some of your depression a lot harder? Because now you're carrying the stories of those kids that are coming to you. Do you think that made a big difference in you finally being like, nah, I need to get out of this field and go to therapy, which, I mean, you still get a lot of shit brought to you. But
yeah. It's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about that before. I mean, I think a lot of people go into the field because they have their own experience. Not all, but the majority of people you talk to that are social workers or therapists, right? They have gone through something, whether it was a family member or themselves personally. And that can be really helpful, as we talked about earlier, and it can be really harmful if they're not doing their work. And so if I'm being completely honest, there were probably times where I was being a pretty big hypocrite, trying to help other people when my life was kind of a mess and I wasn't really taking care of myself. And the last time that I self-harmed and had suicidal ideation, I actually was in the hospital all night. It was the first time I'd ever gone to the hospital. Normally I wouldn't go to the hospital. It was the first time I went to the hospital, and I was there till like 6 a.m. They let me out, and I went home, got dressed, and went to work and was sitting in therapy sessions that day while my arms were bandaged underneath my sleeves. And, I'd been in the hospital all night saying I wanted to kill myself. And that was a moment where I don't know if I've ever had that amount of shame. I mean, I've done some things that, I'm not proud of, but like when I think about that, I have so much shame that comes up of like, and at the same time having compassion for myself because I'm a human too, right? And therapists aren't perfect. But I think that was a big motivating moment for myself as well of like, I can't keep doing this. Like integrity is so important to me. And that felt like the worst moment where I was like, I gotta figure this out.
Is that when you really started to like meditate and everything?
Yeah, that was around that same time. So that would have been around my 30th birthday. And yeah, I'd gone through like a bad breakup, which is what had kind of triggered the self-harm and the suicidal ideation. And that was a pretty toxic relationship that I was in and out of. And I think that was like this pivotal moment where I was like, I can't keep doing this and feeling this way. I have to do something different. And I think there's lots of those moments, right? Like sometimes we think there's one moment, but that was like one, and I'd had several before that, but sometimes they have to keep happening in different ways for you to really listen and take action.
Well, and some are bigger than others too. Some are way more life-changing than others will be.
Yeah.
Some will be that moment that needs to change. Some are the whole life needs to change.
Yeah.
Moments. I'd had a question, but I don't. What got you into doing the sound baths?
I mean, I just started going to those types of things, for my own personal growth. I'm trying to think, like the first sound bath I went to. I can't remember. I mean, so there is a yoga instructor here in Utah. His name's Traven Call, and I would go to yoga classes with him, and he also does sound baths, and he does the most magical sound baths. So if you ever have a chance to go to one of Traven's sound baths, I highly recommend.
I feel like I've heard his name before.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I feel like he's pretty well known here, right? Like
He's at like Brick Canvas, I think, and Lifetime. He opened his own studio for a little bit called Vibe. But yeah, you've probably heard of him.
Sure I've heard.
Yeah,
I gotta go to his.
He's amazing.
The second time I've heard his name in the last month.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to tell you after where, and I think yeah, I'll have to remind myself to tell you after. But yeah.
He's amazing. So I remember just going to one of his sound baths and having this really profound experience where it kind of felt out of body, and that I really did kind of get out of my mind, right? Someone with anxiety, we're always in our minds constantly. And when you find something that helps you shut that off and just be present and in your body, you just want to do that all the time. And so sound baths were that way for me. And I just really enjoyed how it made me feel. And then I wanted to be able to give that to other people as well. And so I told my husband about it. And one Christmas, he surprised me with a crystal bowl set. I had no idea what I was doing. And I just started kind of playing around with it. And honestly, he's been such a support to me, my husband. So I'm remarried now. I should clarify that. And he's been such a huge support, in supporting me in those things and all my woo-woo stuff, which is great because he's in the Army and he's like not the guy you think would do that, but he's amazing. So I'm really thankful for him. And so he's also been a big part of helping me develop my spirituality. And when we bought our house, I was like, I want a magical babe cave. And he was like, you got it. So
I was gonna say, I've heard stories that he's pretty good. So.
Yeah, he is. He's amazing. So I'm super thankful for him. Just supporting me and all of those things. So that's kind of what got me into doing sound baths is I just did them for myself. And I think that's really important for me as a therapist, right? Is that I don't ever ask my clients or the people that I work with to do anything that I haven't done. Right? To me, like, I need to know that it actually works because I've done it, right? Yeah. And so a lot of the interventions, the modalities, and now the more spiritual things that I'm doing, like breathwork and sound baths, I've done all those things for myself, and I have experienced results personally, and that's why I feel comfortable in helping other people do them as well.
Yeah.
What about breathwork? What got you into doing that? Because I know. Hopefully you're almost there so that we can do another session again.
We could still do another session.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I'm almost done with my training. I had to do 12 sessions to kind of finish my training, and I have 3 more left. So I'm getting close.
I'm down. Let's set up another one.
And so breathwork. Yeah. How did I get into breathwork? Let me think.
Because just while you're thinking real quick, just so everybody knows, like you would post that you needed somebody, and I was like, yeah, okay. And, I came and I was having a little bit of a hard time, but I was like, I need to do something different. Like it was the universe telling me, and it was very powerful for me. we did it for like 30 minutes, but then we were able to talk about what had happened to it through it. And that's where I learned some of your story, which is why I'm like, I would like to have her on here. Like, she impacted me so much. I still go back to that day. Anytime somebody talks about it, I'm like, yeah, this was a powerful session. So
I love that.
That's where me thinking about it all and where you decided to do that, because I knew you were in the training process. So
yeah. Let's see. So I guess as I'm trying to make the connections. So I went to a woman named Rita Hoyle for Reiki. She does one-on-one Reiki sessions. So I went to her, and after the session, she said, hey, me and this other person, we are going to be starting womb healing circles for women. And I was like, what the hell is that? And she explained it to me, and she's like, we're going to be using breath work, but we're really focusing on the womb, and a lot of women hold trauma in this area, and I think you would be, I think you'd enjoy it. And I was like, okay, sounds a little weird, but thanks. But then it just stuck with me. So I ended up going to one of their womb healing workshops where they do breath work. I had never done breath work before, and in all honesty, at first I was like, what the hell is happening? Like, as we got into it, some women were crying, some women were screaming, and I was like, what did I get myself into? And I tried to open up a little bit and kind of went there. I remember I cried a little, but like, I was like, I'm not screaming. But it opened up something in me, and I was like, oh, that was interesting, right? And I remember coming out and feeling like, okay, something shifted there. And so then they hosted them again, and I went to another one, and then I went to another one. And every time I went to one and did the breath work, I opened up a little bit more and more. And finally, I was the woman that was screaming, right? And I just had this experience at one of them where I went fully in my body. Like there was no thoughts. I was just fully in my body and like trusting that my body was doing and releasing what it needed to release. And afterwards we sat around and talked about it in a circle, and all these other women were like, oh, I saw this image. I was thinking this. And then they got to me and I was like, I don't know what happened. My body was just doing what it needed to do. And that felt really cool to just trust that I didn't need to know what happened. I didn't need to analyze what happened. I was just present, and my body released what it needed to release. And I really liked that. Like, it was so nice to not think. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Again, as someone with anxiety, I was like, I didn't think about that at all. That was so nice.
Yeah, those are some great times.
Yeah. So through those womb healing workshops, it was Rita, as I mentioned earlier, and another woman named Colette Alosha. And I got introduced to Colette, and then she put out that she was doing a training for breathwork facilitators, so people that wanted to be facilitators. And again, I'm always looking for things that I can kind of add to working with my clients, other tools and interventions, and that was one I wanted to add. So I went to her training last July. I don't even remember when it was. And then I'm, finishing up my training with practice sessions still.
Maybe just don't offer them Breathwork 6, because that's a lot.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between like using breathwork as a tool for like relaxation versus like something more transformative or something that's like more of a spiritual? Is there a difference in that?
Yeah. So there's different kinds of breaths. We'll do different kinds of things. So there's breaths that are more grounding, and those would be the more relaxing ones, or the more balancing breaths. Where then there's more amplifying breaths, where you're kind of activating your nervous system, right? So yes, there's definitely
those are interesting.
Yeah, and most like breath work places you go to, like they're going to do both. They're going to start you out with kind of grounding you, and then they're going to take you into some amplifying breaths to bring some stuff up and activate your nervous system, and then ground you again. And so it really depends on what breaths the person's using. It also depends on what, you're needing. If it's a big circle, you're doing this, everyone's doing the same breath, where more one-on-one, you can kind of, hey, what are you looking for? And then you can kind of do the breaths that would be fitting for that person and what their intention is, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll have to get together. I'd love to do something like that. I've heard it, but I've never done it.
I said it because she's like, pick a number when I went. She's like, pick a number between, I can't remember, like 3 and 6 or something. And every time anybody at work asked me anything, the answer is always 6.
Mm-hmm.
So before she like had fully finished, I was like 6. And she's like, oh. I'm like, okay, well, apparently I'm in for, she's like, it's a tough one. I'm like, well, obviously I'm here for a reason, and this came up for a reason. So it was like dragon's breath or something like that.
The breath of fire.
Breath of fire.
Yeah.
That might have been.
I think it was breath of fire. Yeah.
That.
I remember when you told me about it.
That
you
was
were emotional
intense.
and everything, and I was like,
that
oh
was
wow,
intense.
Yeah.
And I've actually done it. I've sat and like tried to practice it because I'm like, if it comes back up again, I want to have a better understanding of. So I've practiced it here and there. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing is breath work can be something like you go to these ceremonies and, you know, you're doing these releases. That's great. But it's also something you can do in your daily life. I mean, even today, as I was feeling really nervous about coming in and doing this, right? And so I was like, I want to be really clear on my intentions. So I went in my magical babe cave today, pulled a card, and I did my own breath work to kind of go inward and make sure that I have a very clear intention with being here today. And so it's helpful to use, you know, not just in those kind of big ceremonies, but also just one-on-one and in your own daily life.
So you'd mentioned your husband's very supportive of you. Is he kind of like your guinea pig to some of this stuff too?
Actually, no.
No?
So it's really interesting because this is a man who sees me, right? He knows me and he loves and accepts me, all sides of me. He sees the weird, goofy side of me. He sees the really anxious panic attack side of me. I know that he loves me more than any other person does in this world, right? And I am so scared to let him see me do some of these things. So I did a sound bath recently, and it was the first time I really like just put it out there and said, hey, I'm doing a sound bath. Whoever wants to sign up can sign up. Because usually people ask me like, hey, will you come do this for me and my friends for my birthday? Will you come to this therapist retreat? So it's people like seeking me out and they already have a group. This was me just saying, whoever wants to sign up can sign up. And that felt really scary to me.
I think we were gone that weekend. I think you did it the weekend we were leaving for California or something.
I think that is right.
I looked and I was like, shit, I would go to this, but we're not going to be in town.
Yeah. So that felt really scary, right? And I needed my husband's help to set up because it's a lot of things to like carry. And then I was like, are you going to stay? And he goes, do you want me to stay? And I was like, I don't know. And he didn't stay. I don't know. There's something So I haven't ever done breath work on him. I haven't ever done a sound bath with him. He's gone to sound baths with me.
But not ones you've performed.
But not ones that I've done. I don't know why I'm so scared.
Can I challenge you something though?
Yeah.
Ben was going to go there.
I was literally going to tell you.
I would like you at some point in the next couple weeks to do one with him.
Yeah, I think he'll love that.
Yeah.
I want you to approach him and say, I want to go to the babe cave and do it. Okay?
Yeah.
And then let us know how it goes.
Okay.
Just because so one of the things, and we didn't fully get into this before we talked, but one of the things is challenging yourself. That's one of the reasons we wanted to do this, was to challenge ourselves and get outside of the normal.
Yeah.
And so that
would be a challenge for me.
So that's something I would like to challenge you to do within the next month.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
And then let us know.
Yeah, just let us know.
I
He's
will.
going to be blown away. He's just going to fall more in love with you. I'm sure he's gonna be like, oh my gosh. Like,
Yeah. I don't know
this
why
is so
I'm
cool.
so, I don't know. It's just interesting. It's interesting that
I
scares me
asked
so
that
much.
because you know my wife. I was her guinea pig and still am. When she gets new stuff, she's like, ooh, I want to try it. So I've had things waxed on me that I never thought. I've done things. I mean, we were talking to the girls last night about how mom got into it and everything. And they're like, oh yeah. She's like, yeah, I put lashes on your dad. Like I'm like, yeah, it's fine. The spray tans, I mean, everything.
Yeah.
So I was curious if he had done that.
I know
If
he's
you
open
guys-
to it because when I did the breathwork facilitator training and then I had to do the 12 sessions, I approached him. I said, hey, can I practice one on you? And he was like, absolutely. So it's not him. Let's make it
But then
clear.
you got scared.
It's me. I don't know why. I just really like value what he thinks about me, and I want him to see me as someone that's capable and doing a good job. And I guess there's that fear of like, what was that? Or
Okay,
I don't
twist it a little. Do you guys have any fun trips coming up? I know you've just been
We
in
do.
Moab. Okay, do it there.
Yeah.
If you have
We're
the
going to
time.
Maui in a few weeks.
Ooh,
So
that'll be cool.
Maybe do breath work there.
That'd be amazing.
my son's going too. Maybe I could convince them both.
Ooh.
I know my
Is
son.
your son much into it at all, or is he just kind of like,
No,
whatever, mom?
No, he's whatever. He's in full teenager mode right now. And I think if I was like, hey, can we do breath work? He'd be like, absolutely not. He's 16, almost 17. So I don't think he'd be open to it. But I know my husband would be. And I do accept your challenge.
I think that'd be a fun place to do it.
It would be a fun place to do
cool.
it.
You know, if you could do it on the beach one night, that'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty awesome.
With the waves crashing. That sounds pretty badass now. We might have to plan a trip. I was going to say, we might have to plan a trip somewhere.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have any more questions for you. I appreciate you coming on here. The other part of this is we would like you to challenge them to something, the viewers.
Oh.
And before you get to that, so I just wanted to hit on it because it's been resonating with me.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about a lot of shame back then, and just, I mean, I don't know you very well outside of just, you know, communicating here, and then also at the sound bath that you did for Sophie and them in the group. But I see strength, and I know that you said shame and all that type of stuff, but I think it takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength to do that, and I just want to commend you for that. Even just sharing the story, but just getting through it and acknowledging all those things, to me, shows a lot of strength on your side. So I just wanted to tell you that, because I think it's sometimes we get caught up so much in our own feelings, and I'm sure you've already worked through it. You don't really need to hear it, but I felt the need to tell you that I hear what you're saying, but I also see a lot of courage and strength in you. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think people are going to hear that, and hopefully they can resonate with some of that and see that sometimes there's things that happen, and sometimes we go through some dark places, and it sounds like you were there, and you know, we all have those reoccurring thoughts, and sometimes we just got to remind ourselves where we've been through and how we can get out of it, and see the strength in the other. Like you said, you're naturally pessimistic. My wife is as well. I'm the optimistic, and so I totally get it. And I appreciate your vulnerability and the strength that you showed. So
I appreciate that, and that actually, you gave me an idea for what the challenge is for the people out there. So shame is a completely normal emotion. Let me say that first. Shame is not a bad emotion. There are no such thing as bad emotions, right? A lot of us categorize our emotions as good and bad. Please stop doing that, first of all. They're just information. Emotions are information. And shame shows up when we may be at risk of being rejected by others, right? We are sharing a side of us. We're sharing something about ourselves. And shame goes, hey, ooh, be careful with this, because you might be rejected if you share this. And that's an important thing to know, because not everyone deserves to hear our story, right? Not every person is a safe person for our story. So we need to listen to the shame. However, the action urge associated with shame is to hide. When we feel shame, we hide, we shrink, we don't share about ourselves, we aren't emotionally honest, we aren't vulnerable, which does not serve us at all. So with shame, the best thing you can do is share your story, be seen. So that's my challenge for everyone out there, is allow yourself to be seen. Even the parts of you that you don't like, or that you are worried other people won't like, that's how you're going to heal and move forward, is to allow yourself to be seen.
I like it.
I love that. Yeah. Is there anything, I know you're in training, you're doing a lot of classes. Is there anything that's coming up that, you know, we can get out and go do, or share to the people?
I don't think there's anything scheduled right now. I mean, I'm open to one-on-one Reiki sessions. I'm open to one-on-one breath work, even though I'm still in training. I'm open to it. So you don't have to wait for me to be done if you don't want to.
I'll be messaging you.
And I'm also, I do also see private therapy clients as well. For anyone that's interested in that, they can reach out. And when I do sound baths, like I said, the first one I just did where I really just opened it up and put it out there. That was the first time I've done that, but I plan to do more because it went well. So on my Instagram page, I do put out when I'm doing sound baths, but I'm also open to anyone who wants to hire me to come do one, right? If they have their own event. I just did one at a therapist retreat.
I heard that was a really good one.
Yeah, I hope it was good.
I heard it was really good.
Good. So I enjoyed doing that. So I'm also open to anyone who's just like, hey, we want to come do this. I had someone that hired me to come to the salt cave at Synchronicities for a birthday. So I love doing things like that. So those are kind of the ways that if you want to connect with me and
we'll make sure we'll link all that stuff.
Okay.
I'll get all your links and social medias and all that stuff, and we'll have that all in
awesome.
on our pages and be able to share that with the viewers. So cool. Anything else, man?
No, I really appreciate you sharing your story and taking your time to come, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I mean, this was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the challenge to get my husband involved a little bit more. So
Love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
The Roundtable Podcast, where we talk to our personal growth, struggles and journeys.